Yeah, they can't even run you over.
Hello, and welcome to the Tidbit Cast. My name is Gary, and this is...
Colm.
Wait, Colm, where are you?
I'm at home.
Oh, and I'm at home. Wait, what's that? Is this a first time?
Yes, this is our first time doing a podcast from two different places at the same time. We're very
From
proud.
two different remote locations. Yes, Colm, that's right. We are national.
Okay, we're at least county, inter-county.
Yes.
Yeah.
This is inter-county recording.
Yeah, it sounds a lot more cool as national recording, to be honest.
Right, so this week there is a bit of a thing happening, just some planning and scheduling and whatever. So it means that for this, we are going to be doing a topic, and it's going to be Colm and I. And
Yes.
so everybody knows to do the introductions and do some housekeeping. This is a Tidbit Cast where each member brings a topic, and we will give our impressions on that topic and talk about it. And
Yes.
you can obviously, thank you, Colm. You can obviously find us at Tidbitcast on most social media platforms, including Instagram and Facebook. And you can follow us on Spotify, YouTube. If you want to, support us, that's the easiest way to support us, is on YouTube, and Google Podcasts, and most audio and podcasting platforms at Tidbitcast.
Yes.
And now that we've got that out of the way, Colm,
Yeah.
would you rather start or will I start?
Alright, I really haven't thought of a title for my one, but I suppose I'll start. I imagine these podcasts will be a lot shorter than the other ones because we don't have the other guys' input. But
Yes.
yeah, I'll give it a go. So,
Come on, give it a blaze.
where are mainstream single players going in the realms of MMOs? Are they crossing the line, or are they towing the line? Are they becoming MMOs? Are they becoming something completely different? Because it feels to me that a lot of games like Grand Theft Auto 5, Rockstar, like Red Dead Redemption 2, they are going to be these massively multiplayer games in regards to their multiplayer experience while still having the single player. So does that mean they are massively multiplayer online games, or does that mean that they are something different? Because I mean, obviously it's pay to play and there's no subscription, but is this kind of the future for a lot of games, you think?
Yes.
I know I asked a lot of questions there.
Yeah, yes. I was going to say yes and no, even though we had said a lot. Obviously, not going to do a subscription thing, but yes to games seem to be doing that thing, or at least the idea of having a sandbox in the multiplayer version that allows you to do pretty much anything you would wish to do seems to be where games are going, or the games as a service model, which is, once it launches, that they continue adding and updating the game with different features. Grand Theft Auto 5 pretty much is the standout of where multiplayer mainstream game is going to go, or the limit of what it can do, because that game, like, literally, you can go from just heist to you are building Hot Wheels tracks in the sky.
Yeah, but do you think Fallout 76 is the first real attempt to do this without hashing on a single player game as well? I mean, I know they said obviously you can play this game in single player, which you can do with pretty much any MMO, but do you think it's a new kind of genre of games?
I don't think it's a new genre of games. No. This thing has been done before by several attempts, but I do think that going forward there will be examples of this being more of I do think they're going to be doing the MMO thing of having a world that is being controlled by players. By that, That's the thing that I think is being taken from MMOs. Whereas in MMOs, it's that depending on how the player base acts, that will kind of determine how the game actually goes forward.
I mean, we're actually seeing this with Anthem as well, coming up as well.
That's the one. That's the one that's really like kicking ahead with calling it a living world. So, for example, the politics, the lore, the environments, everything will change depending on what the player base does. So maybe their decisions, maybe how the meta changes, that will actually impact the world inside the game. And whether, as I've already said, the environments, like if it's raining in one place in one person's game, it's raining in another person's game. If somebody decides to do this, the other person decides to do this. Things will change depending on what the players do. And just like that, Fallout 76 is doing the stuff with like its dynamic multiplayer open world, with allowing you to do stuff like, oh no, drop a fucking nuke on somebody, and yeah, that means that server, that nuke will have been dropped and destroy that entire place. And so all the monsters there will be radioactive, and new monsters will spawn there because of the activity.
So is this okay? Is this obviously these servers, they have a map limit, like, so is this not massively multiplayer online, but more of a majorly multiplayer online? Like, it was 32 people in a map or 64 people, but depending on the game. But I know things like games like Conan Exiles, you know, can have like 100 people on their maps as well. But I feel like there is certain...
You mean like PUBG?
Yes, but not in the Battle Royale sense. Like, because that's one game. That's one game where you go, okay, there's a beginning and an end. But I feel that where MMOs are, they're kind of blurring their lines, is these multiplayers, they don't have an end. You know, there's no end. Obviously, there's quests, there's loot, there's experience, there's gear, but there's no end. And that's kind of what MMOs really are. You know, there's no hard wall on an MMO. And I feel like they're kind of getting into that territory while gradually expanding how many people they can have on a map at a given time.
Whenever I think of a kind of like standout example of where I would like to see mainstream games go to be like more interesting, like not even just mainstream games, they're like ultimate example of just player agency making a real difference in a community, is, I think it may have been World of Warcraft, but there's definitely in some MMO years ago, there was servers dedicated to this event. The limit time of events is what there were several dungeons placed, and these dungeons, once you finish them, they're done. They're done, and they change. So what was happening with this is that you would have different factions of different, different sides, the evil, good, whatever, dark, light. They would attack to different dungeons, and they would defeat the dungeon boss, and that dungeon is now done. Now, there were these people, I think they called themselves the Guardians or the Defenders, but what they decided to do is, no, on this one server, we are not going to allow this one dungeon to be finished. What started to happen then is, they posted 24-hour patrols, they always have people defending it, they won't let anybody in here. So then you had literally hundreds of players attacking this one dungeon because it's the only dungeon that hadn't been done. Every other server, everywhere in this entire game, had been done in this MMO on every other server, except this one was the only left. This one dungeon on this one server. So there are people logging in, fighting it 24 hours a day, trying to defeat it, trying to get into the dungeon, and they just had this line of people on patrol 24 hours a day scheduled to do this. And even at one point you had the devs, you had the developers actually, and admins, signing into their massive over-leveled characters to do this, and yet they could not defeat them. So, I think they eventually did take down the server. I know there's like a bad ending to it because it said that because the devs had to take it down because there's only way to actually continue the game is that they had to, reset the server, and they had to get rid of dungeons to be able to allow people to continue that game, or else they would.
Yeah, they had to bring out the next patch, obviously.
Yeah, that was the problem. Is that we have to if you don't let us do this dungeon, we can't continue the game. We can't do this again. We can't do anything like this. So they eventually had to force a reset of the server. But in place of that, there is now a permanent statue in that map, in that place where that dungeon is, that says it's something like due to the efforts of the Guardians. Like there's a real lore. It is now in the lore of the world.
Yeah. That
there are Guardians here who stood watch and they protected what they believed in. I'm paraphrasing, but that's
dungeons.
That's the spirit of it.
They protected dungeons.
And I think that is something that, for a week they did that. And they were fucking over this game, but they did it because they believed. They just really wanted this one dungeon to stay.
Yeah.
And that is persistence, and I would like something like that.
Insofar as if there was a map on GTA, and there was a bank about to be robbed, and you could say, "No, we won't let you rob this bank, and we will stop you from ever being able to rob this bank." I'm making up a situation that can't actually happen.
But I like the idea that somebody's doing a heist, and if they have a certain option on that allows people to interrupt heists that are in the area, I think that would be an interesting development. I think allowing players to
that could
control,
be ganking as well,
That can be. Also, this is an outside thing, but anybody who's listened to the Cranberry Tank Tops when we were talking about exclusives and stuff, but Sea of Thieves is the game I was trying to think about.
Too big a map with too little to do.
Yeah, so one problem in that game, there's also a problem in the beta and previews that people were experiencing, is griefing, because in that game, you could easily just kill somebody, take their chest, but you could go off and do missions, get chests, but the problem is that there are limited places and taverns you can go back to cash in those chests, which meant you could just camp the tavern
and wait for someone to come by.
Yeah, somebody comes by looking to cash in the chest. You can literally just kill them before they go inside the tavern, literally right there in the safe zone. It was completely alright to just kill somebody if they hadn't cashed in the chest. You had all the time in the world, as long as they hadn't actually put the option to cash it in, you could kill them at any time. Because a pirate's life for me, but a lot of people really hated that, and I don't know if they've since patched it. As far as I know, I don't think they have. But it's one that a lot of people's complaints about that game.
I suppose it's GTA kind of did it with the whole, you have your on-hand currency and you have your bank account, So, I mean, it's something similar to that, but no one would ever have more than 10 grand in their hand, ever. And, if you wanted to kill someone in that game, when am I talking in past tense? It's still out. But if you want to kill someone in that game and take their money, you can, but you're not going to make much money off it. I think where this Sea of Thieves kind of failed was there was no distinction between in-hand money and bank account, And obviously in GTA you could just go on your phone and,
Well, there kind of was, but also the thing with GTA is that you also had that option of being able to fight players or not. But I believe that if somebody attacked you, you wouldn't die, but you'd still go ragdoll.
No, it's passive mode. Yeah, you're completely transparent to all of them.
Oh, you're transparent, so even if you try to attack somebody, you just go through them.
Yeah, they can't even run you over.
Oh, that is fucking great because that was a big
but
problem.
what they can do, as far as I remember, is they can knock another car into you, but that's a lot of effort.
Yeah, because that really annoyed me in GTA 4.
Yeah.
Because I remember I played GTA 4 a lot on PS3, on the online, and I really enjoyed playing with people. But then, just random people would come in with suddenly the golden helicopter, rockets, and machine guns, and just destroy everything just because it was fun. It was almost every server. There was always that one guy, who did that, and so that kind of
kills the game.
Because I don't want to just go into a private server. I want to be able to go into public because it's fun to hang out with people.
Well, there should. I think there should be, servers with limits. Like every MMO has. Well, not every, but most MMOs have their PvP servers. They have their PvE servers. They have their roleplay servers as well. So I think there's a lot of games like that have, this is off or this is on. You can't have more than this, or you can't have that. And then there are just anarchy servers, as well.
Yeah, that is something that is actually... That's something we've never seen. But it would be also because a lot of these games that we're talking about in terms of like mainstream, we mostly mean console.
Yes.
The idea of a console MMO is still like a thing that we're getting
so
closer
hard to achieve. Like Elder Scrolls Online and Final Fantasy are the closest ones, probably, that I can think of. I mean, there was DC Universe Online, but to my memory, wasn't that good a game. Isn't that good a game, in my opinion. Played it for a while.
Wasn't that good a game, so it was taken down.
No, it's still on the PS4.
It might still be there, but as far as I know, they have taken... I believe they're taking down the servers, yeah.
Oh. Well.
Because I remember there was a whole thing of people standing on top of the tower and saying goodbye to everybody. There's a big hullabaloo.
Ah.
I remember listening to people talking about it. It was at the turn of the... I think it was at the turn of the year, actually.
A new year.
Yeah.
I
might be wrong in saying that, but
anyway,
it was...
I can't remember the point I was trying to make. You sidetracked me.
So what we're talking about is the console. The idea of like a console MMO.
Yeah, yes.
I think it's still like far away as a thing because playing on a controller obviously is hard, but I do like the idea of what you're saying. Maybe an option of what is the kind of experience that you're going into, and then if you want to say, I want to roleplay, or I want to cause anarchy, or I want to be violent. Like even something very simple like I want peace or I want violence. Like just an option like that.
I want a cruel world.
Yeah. What world do you want to be dropped into? A peaceful one. Yeah. Yeah, just options like that. Very simple, but it's something.
I would love a game on a console where the economics are entirely based on player interaction. Like players are merchants.
That is happening.
Yeah, I'd love that game. Like players, and you can kill a player, and then that merchant's gone. I love the idea of you can try rob stuff from the player. Now you can't rob everything from the player, but you can rob this nice shiny shield or something, and the player can then do like GTA and just put a bounty on you, which would be pretty cool. But I'd like the idea of players running the economy entirely, not in this whole you can go to this NPC vendor and buy this stuff. No, you actually have to either go get it yourself or buy it from another player at a designated point. Not just an auction house. Like there has to be a one-to-one interaction where people actually have to haggle and stuff. Although it'd probably take forever, and people who are selling stuff would just grief you constantly. Probably. At least that's what I think.
As far as I know, there is a game coming out that's actually doing that, where, let's say for example, the robbers and the police are all the robbers and the police are like players, the lawyers, even the cleaners, the judge. Like, it is a game that if you're a bank robber, you're a bank robber. If you're a cop, you're a cop. But like, you have jobs. There are people who have office jobs, but I can't remember if this game is out or not. But it's the town is controlled by players. It is all developed by that, and it's also to the point where this game is actually very detailed.
Oh.
There is also another game which is separate. I don't know the names of these because they're not my kinds of games, so I don't usually like do those. But there's another game where you can decide whichever role you want to be in a society, and it's quite hyper realistic. If you want, there is an entire game mechanic for being somebody who is a bank robber, a thief. You can play the entire game and do stock and tax, and there's a real world and real economic stock and tax that works, and you can play that and become very rich in the game. And
or very poor.
And then there's actually cooking mechanics too, so you can actually just you can go home, cook food, get the right ingredients, and then cook it, and then start watching TV.
So
in the game,
we've obviously we've gone off on a slight tangent from the actual point of it, but I think it's a good tangent. But I suppose to summarize in a final question, do you think you'll ever see GTA, as an example, GTA 6, its online being essentially an MMO? I know that's not really the question we started with, but do you see console MMOs being the future?
I think that's where the zeitgeist is going to go. But I think the farthest they're gonna get is probably gonna be GTA 5 for console MMOs.
Right. Okay.
That's what I think. But I think just with the whole tangent thing, I want to say that even if that's where mainstream is going to go, there are clearly going to be people who are trying to make an effort to make those kinds of games, regardless.
Yeah.
So we will see MMOs that will be for consoles. That will be what people are looking for. But because now that those roots are being sown into the console, those roots are being sown into the ground, and they will eventually grow. But we're not going to see maybe the big hitters do it, because they're going for that action adventure experience, and the action adventure experience is not really what the MMORPGs that we're thinking of are doing. But,
true.
But I can imagine there being experimentation there. I can imagine there maybe being an extra mode that tries that, but never like a dedicated one that's going to hit like Take-Two Interactive or
a Rockstar MMO.
A Rockstar MMO. Like the closest we're probably going to get is GTA 5, but again, GTA 5 is anything you fucking want it to be. That is so wide ranging.
Yeah, it's just the server limits that are the only limitation.
Yep.
Realistically. So I'd love to see. I think my final opinion on it is pretty much there's gonna be bigger servers. There's gonna be more people as consoles and as games and developers get better at making games. There's gonna be more people per server, and that will in some way be like an MMO to a certain degree. Obviously there might not be guilds or anything like that, but it does sound like Red Dead Redemption is going to have guilds or clans or gangs, yeah. So that's kind of, it feels like they're kind of feeling their way along to get to this point as well.
Yep. Did you ride around in a gang in Red Dead Redemption 1?
Absolutely, yeah. 3 people.
Pretty fun.
3 people.
We had about like 7 or 8.
Yeah, I had 3 friends.
It was actually like my first real time ever playing online. Red Dead Redemption is the thing that really got me into playing online.
You wet your beak.
Yeah, that was the thing. Before that, maybe I tried 1 or 2 people, but then all the people I met were just like let's all play Red Dead Redemption, and I would go around with a crew of about 7 people, and it was pretty fucking cool. One of my favorite moments in gaming. Yeah, I think that's a good place to end it there.
Yeah, okay. So, I suppose I'll do a little outro because you did the intro. So, thank you all for listening. I've been Colm. This, of course, has been
Gary.
That's Gary, for those of you who don't speak slow. And so, we are, as we said at the start, do I need to repeat it? Well, I think I will. I'll repeat it anyway, just to be safe, in case you listen to the
Snappy. Let's be snappy.
Fine. Jesus, Gary. Okay, so, we are on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube. You can subscribe on YouTube. That would really help us out. We're also on most podcasting sites like Anchor. We're on Spotify as well. So do give us a listen. Some of our other stuff. If you want to actually talk to us, if you want to get in contact with us, you can send us an email at talktotidbit@gmail.com. So, as I said, signing off. I've been Colm. This has been Gary. Goodbye.
Bye.